I have a little bit of an entrepreneurial bent to me, and obviously you guys do too. And the first line of thinking that I had is, how would you pull that off? Right. And I just, with how difficult and that it would be to do something like this and not knowing your world at all, I was really intrigued. And I mentioned this to Jeff yesterday on our show that, that's where my basis of interest started. And then I heard that you guys not knowing you specifically at the point, but got the involvement of RA and Zach Bell. And it's like, wow, these guys really did pull this off.
So, you having fun yet?
Welcome to this episode of the Late Game Podcast. I'm co-creator, producer, and actor Jeffrey M. Zucker, along with the Late Game co-creator Jeff Tyner, who's also the writer and director and editor and hundreds of other things for the movie.
Good afternoon, baby.
How's it hanging?
Pretty good. Good to see your face.
Yeah, likewise. I know we've both been traveling a bit, and we haven't gotten to catch up too much, so pumped to get back on the podcast bandwagon.
Definitely get a little routine reestablished.
Yes, agreed. And speaking of routine, we did get back to playing together this week. Had our game Monday night for the, what are we calling them these days? The canned seals?
Yeah, I support any iteration.
Yeah. And most of these games with the team, at least that I've played, have been blowouts. You and I have talked about that. I think you had one close one. And this was us playing, the undefeated team. And it was a fun 2-1 game, I thought, overall.
Yeah, I had a back-to-back Sunday and Monday. So I'm feeling the 2 weeks I took off for vacation. But yeah, it was a fun game. Pretty chill overall as well. Just biffed a lot of passes and shots on my end, so that made it frustrating, but it was fun.
Well, I thought you looked good. I felt happy with my game, my defensive game. I got some shots off despite forgetting my sticks and using Bo's very short stick. So I was happy with that.
Yeah, I got you a pass to the slot that you fired a good one on, and you had another one that from a weird angle that looked like it went in from the bench.
Yeah, that one from behind the goal line, I think.
Yeah, that was rad. So,
I
had some shots, but yeah, the goal was pretty good. I sailed all my shots high, man. I might have had 1 or 2 shots on goal, but all the shots I remember, I had a spot and I sailed them high.
Well, you win some, you lose some, and I do like to think the shot I had in the slot would have gone in if I'd had my real stick, but
100%.
So yeah, glad to get back to that, and hopefully we'll be able to get the Bear Seals back on the ice for the winter.
It's exciting, although, ominous news about the league, but still excited to see the gang.
Yeah, I don't know how much we want to dig into it, but basically the league decided that they're all free agent teams. We got to sign up for the same team if we want to be on the same team. They're adding an extra night to our league that's confusing, so we'll see what happens.
Just seems needless, all of it, just making it shittier.
Yeah, and I think it is frustrating for me as someone that tries to get people to sign up, like how hard it is, and I think that's part of it too, but I don't think this is the solution. They want to be able to fill teams with whoever they want, whoever will give them money as the rink. And I wish they'd either just do it by team payment and the captain deals with it, or, some kind of thing where you can just opt in. Are you going to play this season? Yes or no, versus having to fill out everything every time.
Yeah. And then if you don't pay when you come to sign in, they say, oh, you can't play until you pay. Done deal. That's all you got to do.
Agreed. So anyway, hopefully it will be all right. And, for our next game, I'm planning to try to channel my inner Young Genos. So right now I'm wearing my Young Genos hat. We've been loving the hats, and they're not currently available online because we've just been doing really well selling them at events. So we've got this hat. We've got the beautiful purple Polly's Pies hat. So anybody that is watching or listening, if you'd like one, reach out to the letter Z, at thelategame.com. Let me know. They're like $35 retail. So if you'd like one, just let us know. Otherwise, come see us at an event sometime, and eventually we'll sell them online too.
It's a top-notch hat.
Yeah, and we've got some. Yeah, super high quality hat. Get Sportswear is our partner who we met at the Expo in Minnesota. But we do have some great stuff at store.thelategame.com, including this Sandy shirt that you've probably seen before if you're a fan of the show. And we've sold some John Calamino style fanny packs as well, so that's been cool.
Yeah, that was a wild one. I think just the one. But still.
Well, I wasn't going to tell everybody here that, but
I don't know,
fine, we sold one.
I wouldn't have revealed it, but I think it's funnier for the character that it's just one.
Yeah, I just sold one.
That's the only reason I'd bring that up.
That's fair.
And if I'm not mistaken, hold on, whoa. If I'm not mistaken, I think it did go to Nevada. So
it's probably a Reno fan.
It's gotta be a Reno head.
Yeah, Reno alum wanted to support. I get that, and I appreciate it. Thank you if you're listening out there. We really appreciate it. Please send us pictures of you enjoying the fanny pack.
I like to think it was Calamino's instructor at dental school.
Yeah, it was actually me just from a random address and name, but yeah, maybe it was my dental school guy. But yes, definitely check out the merch. We don't talk about it much, but it's a real fun aspect of the movie. We also got beautiful posters. So if you're a fan enough of the movie to watch and listen to the podcast, you probably want one of the posters. Yeah,
it's a beautiful work. It's so much better than we deserve, and it's more need to be sold because it's truly a work of art in every sense.
Don't do it for us. Do it for John Embry, the amazing artist that did it, because his work deserves to be seen everywhere because he's so incredible.
At John Embry Tattoos on Instagram. He's a beaut.
Great human and great artist. So yeah, let's see. We got merch, and then I've been really, as we've talked about a little bit, digging into the card collecting in hockey, and recently we had a trip to the National Card Show in Cleveland. From our side, it was myself, Kristen, who plays Aaron in the movie, Sean, who plays Nick the goalie, Tyler, who plays Tyler, and Dan, who runs social media and is our hockey card guru, and is Kristen's brother. So it was a fun crew to have there, and we were working with our partners at SkolnSteel Card Breaks, and we all filmed some content together, some really fun stuff. By the time people are listening to this, it should all be up on YouTube. We've got Zach and Travis, better known as SkolnSteel, going around and spending $10,000 on repack cards. We've got a video where we actually deliver this 1/1 Bedard card from our previous guest on the show, Mike Davis. That was incredible to see in person. We do a little bit of coverage of our joint event we did. But for me, selfishly, the most fun one was a little competition that we did. It's Sean, Tyler, and myself, each get $100 cash, see who can come back with the highest value card, which Dan would confirm via eBay recent sales. And I'm certainly not going to give away who won, but it was fun to make, and it's only 11 or so minutes to watch. So if you check it out, we'd love any and all feedback, comments, shares, etc.
I'm glad you didn't spoil it. I was watching before we recorded and ran out of time, so I have a couple minutes remaining. So I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yes, I love it. And yeah, the show was fun. This show itself, the National, it was insane, insanely huge. I haven't looked up the number. I would guess 50,000 people. So poorly operated, this venue that you would think would know how to do this, given that it's the size of this. But every bathroom line, unless you were female, was a mile. Every food line was 30 plus minutes. So the first day was just chaotic. And we, learned a ton the entire time. But then the second day, we kind of had our thing down and figured it out a little bit better, had a smoother experience. But for me, as someone that has recently gotten back into the card space, and I learned a lot in the months leading up to it. I probably learned as much or more just at the show, just about the industry and how cards move. I went with kind of 2 big cases of cards with the goal of whittling down to 1 via, trading and stuff for better cards. And I was very close, but I did it. So yeah, I felt good about it. It was really cool. We met lots of awesome people, especially at our trade night we did with SkolnSteel. And it's a warm community with a lot of opportunity for growth and people that appreciate our movie.
Nice. Yeah, it looked like an awesome event from the video. Glad you boys had a good time too. Looked awesome.
Yes. It was a great time. We certainly missed you, but you were on another cool trip for us. Tell me more.
Yeah, so I went to the Vermont Film Festival with Megan joined me. We stayed at 506 at the river was the quaint hotel we stayed at. I'd never been to Vermont. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It was like 70 degrees and sunny the whole time, so that was dope. Lovely little town, like such an idyllic little northeastern town too. Like it was something. It felt like a TV show or something. I don't know. It was wild. The people at the event, shout out to Matt Vita. Such a hilarious, funny dude. He was super cool, super nice. Just if I had to sum it up in the 2 words, it would just be great vibes. Like everybody I talked to was super cool, super chill, super warm. Such a supportive environment. Did a little meet and greet. I forgot what they call it, like a networking event on Saturday, which the guys, along with Matt, who operated the event, like that was like a big. They've done a lot of festivals as filmmakers, and they just wanted to make the Vermont one special. That this is a second year it's been, and little networking thing. I met so many cool, funny, awesome people. It couldn't have been more beautiful. I might try to see if I can drop a picture to Nick because it's the lake. It was unreal, man. It's so nice. So probably selfishly my favorite environment in terms of audience watching a movie, because everyone gave me so many pats on the back afterwards and so many nice words and questions, and made me feel like a rock star. And then watched a ton of great stuff. I really wanted to shout out my buds Jake Fallon, Dan Bauer. They did a comedy short, Whenever You're Ready. So fucking funny. Just like hit it off. Jake's from Denver originally, so they both live in New York. I think Brooklyn. Just it was funny how the guys, we kind of made a little subgroup at this networking event because we found out we were all the comedy guys. Like we didn't know ahead of time that we were all having our entries were comedies. So I wanted to shout out Viva Extra was another one from Stephen Griswold and Kevin Samar. Kevin, the writer director of it, he has a crazy resume as a VFX artist. But super cool, funny guys. Just really fucking hit it off with them. So it was a great time. So yeah, wish you could have been there. It was nice to have Megan around. The venue there was cool. I hope to go back, even if it's just to visit and watch, because it was really cool.
Yeah, sounds like an awesome experience. Definitely was sad I couldn't make it, but was exhausted certainly from Cleveland, but I'm really glad you got to do that, and hopefully we'll get some more experiences like that. And sounds like you walked away with some great contacts too.
Definitely, and I just one of the most overwhelming piece of feedback I received after we showed the movie was just how great, phenomenal all the performances were. Like, and I just people were I got one question that was like, were they actors? Or did they happen to be really good at hockey and then they became actors? And I just wanted to make sure everyone heard that at least one person thinks you all are really good at hockey.
Dude, I've never heard that about myself. I appreciate it.
So yeah, I'm only so, I think, I hear about some filmmakers not liking their movies and hating them even, whether that's during the edit, after the edit, whatever. But like, and maybe this is a little cheat code for me, but like, I'm just so proud of everyone that's in it. So I truly never get tired of watching it. And it's because of you guys.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, we can imagine who their very favorite performance was from. No, I'm just kidding. But I agree 100%. I mean, I always wonder, like, am I ever going to get sick of it? But no, I still enjoy watching it because there's so much to look at. There's so much to appreciate when we watch it.
Yeah, I have points of contention that if I could fix, I would, but they're very minor. And it's just like, that is the only result of watching so many times and editing it, or just like, I can see most of the cracks that others can't, which is good too, if no one else is catching it.
I totally get that. Well, I'm glad Vermont Film Festival was awesome. Let's do some more stuff like that. And while we're on the film side, what have you been watching lately?
Well, I'm excited to say this because it overlaps with the late game in a fun way. I've been watching Kevin Can Fuck Himself, which also the recently named Kevin Samar worked on. I saw that on his IMDb. But that show's been really, really fun to watch. Megan had given me like a soft pitch of it. She'd watched a few episodes when she had like a free week to, I guess, was that his AMC? I think it's an AMC show. Maybe FX. I always mix up those two. So she gave me a good enough description of it. Just does really interesting things with lighting and color to make parts of it feel like a sitcom, other parts feel like real life. And Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek is in it. She's great. And then while me and Megan were in South Carolina, watched a lot of movies in the theater. Saw Twisters, which was phenomenal. So action-packed, so fun. Did not seem like a movie a sequel could really pull off. Like what, and it's not trying to be a direct sequel, you know, like it's its own thing in the same vein, and it just is really fun. Glenn Powell's a lot of fun in that. It does one of my favorite things in movies, which is it's too spoilery to talk about, but just casting misdirections basically. And then I saw Longlegs with Nicolas Cage, the horror movie. I'd call it more of a thriller than a straight horror. That was really, really good. I think that's a victim of being overhyped as the scariest movie ever made, and I think that's to its detriment because it's creepy, but I don't even get the vibe that that's what the movie's trying to be, is the scariest movie of all time. So I think marketing misses the mark there because it's still very enjoyable. And Nicolas Cage, great weird performance from him. Nuanced weird, not weird, just Nicolas Cage weird, but like, you know, directioned weird. And then I also saw Deadpool and Wolverine, which was such a fucking blast, even though the AC was broken in the Somerville theater I watched, and oh my God, it was fucking hot. But I think that's a double testament to the movie that we sat through it because it was really fun.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I'm excited to see Twisters at some point. Wolverine, Deadpool and Wolverine on the sooner side. So yeah, no spoilers, but it's been getting good reviews. People seem really happy with it. So I'm definitely excited to check that one out.
Yeah, no, all the thumbs up.
Yeah. And in preparation, I've watched, a couple of the previous ones. Like I watched Logan. I watched the first Deadpool, going to watch the second one beforehand. And maybe go back a little bit more into some X-Men if there's some time, but I don't actually expect to make that happen.
I wish I would have rewatched Logan because those are the big three that this pulls from. I'm less familiar with the X-Men movies. Like I've seen probably half of them. I love Hugh Jackman, and I love Ryan Reynolds, especially in his Deadpool world. Like I think everyone in it shines. There's a lot of fun casting choices in smaller roles that you might not expect that are a lot of fun. One in particular that's just the best. So I'm excited hopefully I'll join you to see that one.
Yeah, awesome. Well, definitely looking forward to it. And yeah, otherwise I can't really think of anything new that I've been watching. I mean, I have yet to watch the season finale of House of Dragon, but I've heard people don't think it's a great finale. We'll see. Still watching Sunny that our friend Joanna's in, which has been really good. I think I'm probably one behind on that one. And yeah, that's been the main of my watching.
Yeah, and just to reiterate something we spoke about earlier, I think yesterday, while I was driving, is like, we lament the era of R-rated comedies kind of being a bygone era, and we both had the thought, like, wouldn't it be funny if everyone complains about superhero fatigue, but it's a Marvel movie that brings back R-rated comedies because this is a fucking hit. I know there's an action spectacle to it, but I think it's equally a comedy, so if that could maybe open people's minds, and better yet, the decision makers' minds, of maybe we can greenlight a few more comedies, like that'd be fun. Like I'd love for us to get back to a few of those.
Yeah. I mean, this could be a good tee up for some of the, action comedies that we've been involved in getting prepared for with Jeff and BJ that, hopefully we'll have more news on at some point. But just seeing some of these bigger budget or seeing this bigger budget sort of action comedy do well is definitely seems promising.
Not just well, but like all time breaking records for R-rated movies. Well, yeah. So like that's encouraging. I mean, the pessimist would just be like, oh, well, it's literally Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and Deadpool. Like that's the pull. But you know what? It's still a lot of fun.
I mean, I think that just shows that there's a lot of potential if you do crush that. And if you cast it right. I mean, I hate the whole Hollywood thing of you have to put stars in roles to get anybody to watch it, because like you can make great movies with people no one has ever heard of, but if that's what it takes to get these to start being made again, then all right, then we make some smaller films where you get to showcase some of these actors and work their way up to where they do bring in the money for it. Yeah, and I know Vince Vaughn was lamenting. I saw a quote recently just about how studios are too scared to make like the R-rated comedies. But hopefully they're coming back.
I saw another comment on this of just like, I love how we're at this era of journalism that's now just every time someone's on Hot Ones, then it's just like a whole range of headlines that are just quotes from Hot Ones.
Oh, I didn't even know that's where it's from, but that's amazing.
That's funny. I just love that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'd love these things go in cycles, I feel like there's a boom and a bust every 15, 20 years, kind of like in these eras cycle through Hollywood, so maybe if they can figure streaming out as one thing, then they can get over the hump.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And then, today's interview is with Josh Madigan, one of the hosts and founders of the Hockey Cards Gongshow Podcast. Actually met Josh at our trade night event that we did with SkolnSteel, and just, really appreciated what he's been working on. I think we see the hockey card industry in a similar way, and the growth potential and the community that's built up around it and the potential there. And, it's been a community that has been welcoming to the movie. So it's been really fun to work with. And, they had me on their show and wanted to have him on ours to really dig into what it means to be a hockey card collector these days. So, I really enjoyed the conversation and excited to share it with everyone. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. I know I personally struggle with comparing myself to others, especially in the social media world. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. Therapy has been tremendously beneficial to me, and I think it can help most people, traumatized or not, be the best versions of themselves. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN. Josh, good to see you again. I know we recorded for your show yesterday. Really enjoyed that, and thanks for taking the time to join us here.
Yeah, long time no see, but we got more friends today, so that's good. Very honored and happy to be here, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was great to meet you. So for the audience reference, Dan and I got to meet you in Cleveland. You came to the trade night event that we did with SkolnSteel card breaks at Rivals right near the national show. And you have a kind of a fun story about how you found out about it.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't expecting any really hockey related events at the national, and I wasn't even planning to go until about maybe 3 days before. And I'd asked my wife if we had anything going on. I was feeling FOMO pretty bad. I'd been to the national last year in Chicago and just decided, okay, screw it. I'm going to road trip it and we're going to head down there. And drove all day, left, I want to say 4 a.m. here in Minneapolis, and about 6:30, 10 minutes outside of Cleveland. And a listener of our show messages me and says, "Are you coming to the hockey trade night?" And I'm in the car. I'm like, "Huh? Hockey trade night? No way." And then I'm like, so I immediately respond. I'm like, "Well, who's doing this? When? Where? Why? How?" And he's like, "I'm there right now." And then I said, send me the address. And he was at your trade night. So I don't think he was checking on his phone relentlessly for messages from me. And I just started searching the internet, hockey trade night at the National. I think on a blowout forum, I saw a flyer. And literally, I think by the time we punched in the address, I was 3 miles away. We were just driving down the road. So it was very serendipitous. I was thrilled to see that there was a hockey event at the National, because it's not really known well for having a lot of hockey's a little bit the afterthought there. And had a great time.
Yeah, I mean, we thought it was an awesome event to bring, a good chunk of people from the hockey community together. And Dan really planned that event. And how'd you feel about it, Dan?
There was, I think going into it, being I haven't been to a card show the size of the National before. So we went in and prepped as best we could. And I think it surpassed all my expectations. I mean, something that's fantastic about hockey fans in general, and it trickles into the hockey card community, is just how dedicated everyone is. And so, a room full of 30 to up to 40 people feels like it's a much larger energy than you expect. And the energy and the vibe and the care and the excitement for everyone's personal collection was so cool. And I'm thrilled with it. And I think it's a great stepping stone of where we're going to head and what we're going to do next with this. And, meeting you there, Josh, and talking about, and hearing your kind words on your podcast, it was kind of exciting of like, okay, there's a lot of smaller pockets and communities out there that want to have more events like this happen. It's like, where can we go next? What's the next chapter? I think that's where I left. How do we keep this energy moving?
Oh yeah, I would say 100%. I mean, that's very well said. And we talk all the time. We're hockey cards guys. And of course, we love the sport too and follow the sport, I'm sure, just like you guys do. But the cards are the cards, and it's the people that keeps you in it and the people you get to meet. And we've been really fortunate to meet amazing people through our 2.5 now year run through participating in this hobby to the degree we have. And so I never heard of your movie until the trade night. I've never met you guys, and thank God that I saw that message, because you're always, it's and that's why we really encourage people to, from the hobby perspective, to get out there, put yourself out there, whether it's on social media or attending trade nights or attending card shows. You just never know, what sort of people you can meet, and it really enriches your experience, I think.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And you mentioned, that was your first introduction to the late game, our movie. And what were your thoughts to learn that there was this beer league hockey movie? And then we'd love to hear, what you thought about it. I know you got the chance to watch it since.
Yeah. Well, my first thought, just being honest, was walking in there and I was trying to figure out at the trade night, who's doing this? Because we like to think we know most of the people in this little niche of hockey card collecting. And so I was baffled a little bit. And then I saw the Polly's Pies, and I'm like, what? Who are these? I just asked somebody, I'm like, who are you? Why are you doing this? Why are you here? In a nice way. And then, then I learned about your movie, and I was, loved.
Yeah, I know you talked to Tyler at one point with the mustache. Yep.
Yeah. And I'm like, I love the idea. Of course, I'm from Minnesota. Love hockey. I definitely know what beer league is. Love any and all content and shows or movies. And so, and then, I know you guys have a break partner you work with. I hadn't heard of them either. And I felt like, well, we know most of the breakers in the space. And so that was my initial reaction. And then just after talking to you guys, I was excited to get home and check out the movie.
It's fantastic.
I have a little bit of an entrepreneurial bend to me, and obviously you guys do too. And the first line of thinking that I had is, how do you pull that off? Right. And I just, with how difficult and that it would be to do something like this, and not knowing your world at all, I was really intrigued. And I mentioned this to Jeff yesterday on our show, that, that's where my basis of interest started. And then I heard that you guys, not knowing you specifically at the point, but got the involvement of RA and Zach Bell. And it's like, wow, these guys really did pull this off. And so I kind of looked at it from that on like, I don't know if this is weird to you, but that maybe entrepreneurial perspective as I was even watching the movie. And like, I noticed that you shot, basically is like two to three scenes, right? Boy, environments. Now I'm really out of my depth here, but,
Sets,
I'm
yeah, or
thinking, oh, I'm sure that,
locations. Yep.
yeah, locations from an independent perspective and not having the Deadpool versus Wolverine budget, that probably made it a lot more feasible for you guys to do.
Oh yeah, I mean, we all grew up in a rink too, so like it's got a special place. The smell, especially, just something about it. But I mean, going back to my screenwriting class I took in college, I remember there was like one of the main guidelines was like you're writing a short film that you could conceivably make. Like we're not writing superhero movies here. Like write something that you could, in theory, go out and shoot. And that was like the number one thing that stayed with me this whole time because I was just like, no one's going to swoop in and say, hey, let's make this idea of yours. Like I always knew we would have to do it ourselves. So location, the characters involved, that's, those choices were made with the idea of what's going to be the easiest way to actually start doing this. Cause you only sit around and talk about doing stuff, but I wanted to make this as actionable as possible from the start. So that's why I made it a short to begin with too. Cause I was just going to do almost everything myself. And it would have been much worse. But then Jeffrey Zucker, he was the one who was like, let's see what a feature-length version of this looks like. And that you speak to your entrepreneurial spirit. Like that's kind of the approach of just like, shorts are cool, but once they're over with, it's just like, okay, let's move on. Whereas a movie it's in the market, and there's a longer lifetime for it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was certainly a dream come true for us to make. We're really proud that we were able to pull it off. And you being a Minnesota hockey guy, I'm curious to know your general perspective on it. You don't have to butter it up for us. We can take it straight, but just curious as to your perspective.
I thought the story was great. I think I told you last night again on our show that I loved how all the personas that you typically get in a beer league. I think that you guys really had fun with that. I can't believe, and I think in our conversations before we had connected on and recorded a show was that I apologize that the guy plays the lead character was kind of really the only like quote unquote like trained actor. And I thought that so many of the performances were so good that it's hard to believe that there was some amateur performances in there, because I know what I would be like with a minute, you said action, I would probably freeze up and not move for the next half hour because I'd be so terrified. And so those parts really, really impressed me. And then I thought too, especially as the movie went on and you got to understand the characters a little bit, and it's like the interplay between the two buddies in the stands and kind of the lunatic that wants to join the team were good. And I thought you guys found great roles for RA. I think a lot about I'll probably get me in trouble, but so I live, if you guys are familiar with Shattuck St. Mary at all, so I live about 25 minutes north of there, and my daughter practices there a lot, and it's like Hogwarts for hockey schools. If you go there, right on they have 4 sheets of ice at a high school, and the kind of the main arena on the wall, there's a list of all the current NHL players that went to school there, and it's 42. There's 42 right now NHL players, yes, that went to school there. And then that's also the Crosbys and McKinnons and Macklin Celebrinis and all those people as well. Well, they've got the guy, like the arena manager / Zamboni driver, he's like a little bit of a doppelganger from Brian May from Queen, but he's got like bright white, long curly hair. And he's, weird and quirky, just like every Zamboni driver and arena manager is. And so I love that role for RA. And I thought that you guys really captured that spirit too.
Yeah, dude, RA was great. We wanted him to be the ref originally, but I think it all worked out. I think his belligerence was better served from the rink staffing side. And then, yeah, to circle back, like, couldn't be more proud of my buddies who, you know, were great in the movie. I mean, I just came from the Vermont Film Festival where that was like overwhelmingly the response was just like, how did you get this many great performances out of hockey guys? Part of that was just not making them have to feel like they got to stick super close to the script, you know, like try to be a little more natural. That leads to a little more cursing, but it's authentic, I suppose. But I think it was always fun. I think one of my favorite things when I think back on making the movie, it seems so long ago now, was like this person's first take versus their last take. Like how everyone was a little stiff, you know, like not fully clamming up and shutting down, but like, you know, just I think the most common thing when you're not a trained actor is just like, okay, I know what I have to say. I just got to get it out of my mouth before I fuck it up, you know? So like that was like the number one thing is just like speeding through the lines because they don't want to fuck up. And then, you know, it's the lights, you know, it's a big ass camera in your face. I get it. So it was more just about whether it's Kevin, Tyler, you know, just, you know, just take a breath and, you know, it might take a few takes, who cares? And then, you know, everyone loosened up. And I think everyone bonding on set too helped people relax more in their scenes. So then it came, doesn't matter who your scene's with, it's with someone you love and have great chemistry with. So I'm super proud of everybody, Jeffrey Zucker included.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I think the warmth really comes through on screen. We're super happy with it. And, you know, excited to expose the hockey card community more to the movie amongst anyone and everyone. You know, I mentioned to you that September 10th will be available via Apple TV for rent and purchase in Canada. Finally, we're really pumped about that. And we really enjoyed our time at the National. And so we're looking to start going to more card shows and meeting new people that want to, you know, watch our movie and to be part of our brand with us and part of our community.
Oh, I think there's obviously a big connection there, right? Because hockey fans love the game and collectors, you know, they can't get enough. And whether it's playing fantasy or participating in the hockey hobby or, you know, consuming content, I think that it's a very natural fit. And actually, throughout the process of thinking about your movie and just the state of even sports content in general, it kind of surprised me a little bit that there really isn't more, given how big of a part of the fabric of North American life sports is, that there isn't more sports shows or themed or content. And not even just hockey, but of all sports, really.
Yeah, and it definitely adds like a tougher element for any show that actually wants to showcase it. It's like Friday Night Lights, like the football elements, I think varied in seasons. Like some seasons showed more football than other seasons. And so, you know, like for us, it was important to show a fair amount of hockey itself in this. And I feel like there's some shows out there that like maybe have sports integrated in them, but they just try not to show too much of the action because the action is a ton of work to get right. And, you know, Tyner could definitely speak to that after everything we went through.
Yeah, 100%. I just always get cracked up when I watch Ted Lasso because they couldn't go to greater lengths to show less soccer. So it's fun to go in the opposite direction if nothing else.
I was even thinking of like Shoresy, if you guys watch that, the Jared Kiso show. I mean, that's very sport conscious, right? It's really this. You're right. Like in a Ted Lasso, the sport is the backdrop, almost like the coffee shop is in Friends, where that show is really about the hockey team and the culture of being a hockey player, and in a super exaggerated Canadian sort of way, of course. But and if you think about like I don't know how that came about, but you would assume that the little segments of Letterkenny must have resonated enough with people where they thought that there would actually be a demand for, you know, let's create a spin-off that really focuses on the hockey aspects.
I'm kind of love to speak to that because that was such a huge draw about that. You know, Letterkenny was so, especially here in the States, I'll say I can speak to that, is that it didn't catch on until far later in its run. And now the earlier seasons might become the more beloved seasons. You go back to those in the early days of it. And Shoresy was kind of a hit from the beginning in terms of like just public awareness, especially in the hockey world. It's like, oh, from season one felt like, are we going to be able to do this more and more and more? Now it's like we're on season 3 or what have you of it. Is that the hockey community? There's clearly a deep desire for content like this. And so the hockey community came in to support Shoresy in a way that it's like, we want this to succeed. We want more of this. How far can we push this? And that's what I've kind of always felt about that show in particular, about, as great as Letterkenny is, and as much, the wordplay is second to none. It's amazing. But the hockey community wanted a hockey show, and they got that with wordplay. So the wordplay became second to the hockey almost.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree.
Well, and absolutely, I think there's more room for sports series out there. If anyone wants to help us out, we'd love to make a series in the late game universe. Got plenty of ideas around that.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah, I could see it, because and that's the thing about your movie too. It really captures one night sort of in the life of a beer league. And I thought that was a cool choice. But yeah, there's so much about, and hockey itself too has such a specific culture to it, and you really get that growing up here in Minnesota. I don't know, have you guys ever been to our high school state tournament?
So Tyner and I were there this year. We unfortunately didn't attend games, but we were at the expo next door and all around the arena and stuff. So we got very much to feel the intensity and the environment and the excitement.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's 130,000 people watching high school hockey. Every game sold out. Every kid that plays has the most ridiculous haircut that you'll ever see in your entire life. And it's just, and hockey has its own language, right? Which is obviously exaggerated in Letterkenny to some degree. And so I think it's so ripe to, to have more content about it.
Yeah, there's so much room for growth, and I feel the same way about the room for growth in the card community around hockey. Like, the national, probably 80 to 90% not hockey, but all the hockey people were really fervent about it, as hockey fans tend to be. We tend to be a group that really love hockey, and I just felt that there's so much room to grow the hockey community in the card world as well. Do you feel the same, knowing the community better?
Yeah, there's a huge gulf between Canada and the US, and to some degree that makes total sense, and there always should be. It's the national sport in Canada, where baseball is more considered our national pastime here. And I think that hockey has been incredibly poorly marketed in the United States, and that its growth has suffered as a result. I think it's improving, it's getting better. It's on national TV again here in the US, which is how can you be considered a major sport and have for 10 years we didn't have a nationally televised, barely a game. Maybe the cup finals were on ESPN2 or something like that, I can't remember. You have a great group of stars to promote, and the NHL has been traditionally terrible about that. We talk a lot about on our show how most people in the United States have never even heard of Connor McDavid, where LeBron James plays basketball on Christmas Day and is plastered over the airwaves, and why the NHL hasn't marketed him or Crosby to the nth degree. And it was funny too, like when last summer when Snoop Dogg was part of that ownership group trying to buy the Ottawa Senators, that's one of the points he made. He's like, I've never met anyone that knows who Connor McDavid is. And it's just a shame. But now you have Bedard, and the NHL seems to finally get it in that regard. And he's obviously excited. He's in the Midwest in an original 6 team in a central time zone, so very accessible to people. And I just think, and then kind of like we talked about last night, Jeff, too, is that I think it's very important culturally that the game, I see a lot of parallels between kind of the culture of baseball and hockey, where nobody's allowed to stand out from the team. Everybody needs to fall in line. Any type of showboating, you're going to get punched in the face after. And now you've got this new generation of players that kind of like Bryce Harper did when he emerged, that just don't care anymore. That are like, I'm going to score a Michigan goal, and then I'm going to celebrate like a maniac afterwards. And there's traditionalists that are going to look at that and they're going to be disgusted. But you know what? 12-year-old kids think that's really cool.
Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. Lines and odds are available on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's code THPN, only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023, all rights reserved.
I'd love to talk about the accessibility of the hockey card world right now compared to others, if that's okay. I really feel I've dabbled in sports card collecting my entire life, and I'm really curious to hear about your history with collecting. But I wanted to see if your thoughts on this. I feel like with hockey cards in particular, it's probably the most accessible card to collect in terms of the sets themselves. There seems to be different price points that are clear and determined for hockey compared to other sets and other sports, where you have basketball and football who have so many parallels and so many different offshoots of different type of different sets that are out there. But with hockey, you kind of have like three main ones, and then there's some offshoots from there. So you have the flagship, the upper deck young gun kind of set, which is a great entry point that you can go to your local Walmart and pick up a retail pack for a kid there, right? And then you kind of venture into that next kind of jump, but you have the Future Watch set, which is kind of the next primary. And then there's that massive jump. There's a few things in between, but then there's that massive jump to like the cup, like the true collector. The cup, we have, what the premier product is. It's not like National Treasure or what have you with other sports, but I'd love to get your thoughts on kind of that in terms of like, if we have a lot of people that came to are through our community are coming to sports card collecting for the very first time, and we've kind of talked about how there's a great entry point through that young gun set, and kind of seeing for the new collector, how would you advise them or talk to them about the accessibility of collecting hockey?
Yeah, I would say it's accessible, but there's a steep learning curve, and typically the learning curve costs you money. And that's one of the things we've really tried to do on our show is from an educational perspective is help people avoid some of the common pitfalls and then learn some of kind of the crazy nuances of the hobby that don't inherently make sense, to be honest. So you mentioned, you're right, there's three core rookie cards. There's the young guns, the base young guns, which is it comes in the upper deck series 1, series 2, or extended. And then there's the Future Watch Auto out of $9.99. The first 50 of those are inscribed, and so what they're inscribed is with the date of the NHL debut for that player, and those would be more valuable, but it doesn't say inscribed on it. It's just kind of something you have to know. The other kind of crazy thing about the Future Watch Auto, even though it's there's 999 of them, they will sell for way more typically than other cards that are autographed out of 49. And so we joke a lot about, if this was your first day in the hobby and someone said this card out of 1,000 is worth more than this card out of 50, you're like, well, how is that? And it's because a big part of it is comes down to sort of legacy and what the community has decided these are the core or true rookies for that player. And then the other one is the cup, what's called the true rookie patch auto, which is either out of 99 or out of 249. So for the 5 or 6 biggest prospects that year, they'll make the print run out of those out of 99, and the rest of the rookies are out of 249. So, and it's kind of funny because 5 years down the road, you'll have some person that didn't pan out. You barely remember their name is out of 99 versus like a Jason Robertson, who's now a pretty good player and is out of 249. But the crazy thing about the cup is that is considered their true rookie patch auto, where there will be parallels of that card out of like a gold parallel out of 10 or some other parallel out of 25, and the card that's numbered out of 99 will sell for more than the same parallel out of 25. And so it's there's a lot to it, and we just, starting simple, starting with the flagship series, starting with the young guns, kind of understanding the hobby, and is a good way to start. And that part does make it easy to kind of say that, okay, you have the young guns, the Future Watch auto, and so you have the basically just the rookie card, the rookie auto card, and then the rookie auto patch card, which would be the cup.
So I got a question for you here too. I'm gonna get I'm gonna double down on the Future Watch auto conversation here, because I know in the recent years there's been a lot of debate about are there putting too many different variations of the Future Watch? With the particularly, I think the key one is the retro Future Watch auto is now replacing the traditional. What's your take on the retros? Do you enjoy them as a collector? Do you seek them out? Do you find them frustrating like many do?
Kind of all of the above to some degree, Dan. And again, it points out another sort of nuance about collecting hockey cards, where you have the Future Watch auto out of $9.99, then they'll take a retro design like from 2009-10, and they'll say, here's the same guy, it's Cale Makar's retro, and that'll be out of $3.99, and the version out of $9.99 is way more valuable again than the one out of $3.99, because the retro designs aren't held in as high of esteem by people in the hobby. I think in general though, Dan, like Upper Deck is in a little bit of between a rock and a hard place. Is that on one hand, they're trying to get as much value out of boxes as they can. They're a for-profit business, and they're trying to sell as many boxes for as much money as possible, like any person in business would do. With that set in particular, which is SP Authentic, that's where the Future Watch autos come from. There's kind of this consumer expectation that there's two autos in a box. So when you're trying to produce more boxes of SP Authentic and have two autos in a box, what do? Do you include more rookies, the people that you've like owl rookies we call, that you go, who's that? Or do you have more, bottom six forwards, or a defenseman who spends half the season in the press box as a healthy scratch? Or do you try to take content for like a Cale Makar in 2019 or a Kaprizov in 2020 and create a that retro Future Watch auto? And so I think as you if the sports card collecting or hockey card collecting is something that really kind of bites you and you get really fascinated with experience, you get savvier and you start to understand a little bit of, okay, these are the cards that have the greatest opportunity to stand the test of time, and versus kind of all the other ones that are we'll call it like sort of like a little bit like the junk variety era. Well, one of the things that we did that I think is really interesting is we went back and plotted, going back to the first post World War II set, 1951 Parkhurst, and look at rookies and how many unique cards they got. And so Gordie Howe had one rookie card. Then in the 60s, you had Topps and OPG, which were cousin cards. You get two. By the late 90s, you'd have Jaromir Jagr had 12 different rookie cards. Then in 2015, Connor McDavid had 612 different rookie cards. And by basically the run rate right now and our projection for Bedard is he'll have between 1,300 and 1,350 different unique rookie cards. And so as a collector, you really have to understand and separate, right, the good stuff from the noise.
Yeah, and the audience kind of sets that noise, like the collectors themselves. And it's, I mentioned to you, I collected as a kid, the junk wax, etc., for, thousands of them. And then over the last like 3 or 4 months, Dan's really been the catalyst for getting me back into the card scene, for better or worse. For better. And yeah, like you said, I've spent some money learning. And I had started to get a hold of it, like doing that all digitally, but then going to the show, like I feel like I learned as much in that show as I did in the months leading up to it. And I did start to get more vibes around what people truly like and don't like. And yeah, like I've read online and like talked to some people, but just to actually see it happening in person where people are paying for the cards, making their trades, and that like really got me on the young gun train, being there and walking away with that Cale Makar young gun mint 10. It's just, you kind of start getting the vibes around the different sort of brands in the space.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and I think you did the right thing, right? Having a friend like Dan is the best thing, right? When you can waste $1,000 very fast and end up with relatively nothing in the hockey hobby. So having someone that you trust to say, "Hey, here's kind of what my goal, and what would you do if you had $1,000 or $200 or whatever that amount is?" And that, what we always stress to people at the end of the day, because it's so, sports cards can be worth a lot of money. It was funny. I had my dad, because I kind of wanted him to see what the industry is all about. So he came with me to Cleveland. And for 2 days, he walked around the show and he just kept pointing at stuff, being, "I can't believe that box is $90,000. I can't believe this is $20,000. I can't believe this is $8,000." Right. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, that's what it goes for. And it's so easy to get caught up in that. But if you collect and buy a card and you trust your instinct and you just say, "This is a card that speaks to me, a card that I love, a card that, whether it goes up 50% or down 50% in current market value, that I'm going to enjoy regardless," that's when you typically do the best. Like I'll say all the time, the most money I've made in the hobby is when I was trying not to make money. Every time I try to make money, I get crushed.
Is there a player that you've invested in too much in and then watched that backfire by chance?
Oh yeah, it's like prospecting in general is incredibly risky. Like you look at, as exciting as Bedard is, and I'm sure we've all seen him play, and it's hard not to be impressed for when you saw an 18-year-old last year do the things he could do. But he's being consumed in the hockey card hobby like Wayne Gretzky, and he's got 22 goals, not 894, right? And so everything, the people that are spending we just posted today his Young Guns acetate, which is a pretty sought after, it's not the clear cut, it's more rare, and it's an extended series. The first one sold for $8,000. You can buy a very nice Wayne Gretzky rookie for $8,000. And you think of, Wayne Gretzky's career is done. His legacy, unless something crazy happens, his legacy is largely set. To even sustain the values Connor Bedard has, everything has to go perfect. And I think we're old enough to know how life works.
I saw your post today, and I was shocked at that too. But I wish I was more shocked, given I've seen the Bedard bubble and how it's impacted the hobby, impacted the accessibility that you're speaking of everyone. And I'd love to hear about how you go about finding your collection. But I know with a card break, for instance, what happened prior to this, for those listening, card breaking is when you buy a specific team into a break and say, "Hey, every time that, you buy the Avalanche, every time an Avalanche card is pulled, that's your card." I've never seen a player cause so much chaos that you have to go box by box for the singular player. And when they're charging for the hope and the chance of a singular player versus an entire team, and that's still being more expensive than just about every other team. When you're looking at it, are you a card break person by chance, or how do you go about putting your personal collection together?
A little bit. We have good relationships with a lot of breakers. We use them a lot for information because they open up tons of product. SPX came out today, 2022-23, and by noon I talked to a breaker that had opened 4 cases. Right. And so for our sake, that helps us get really good information about new products. But my approach, and Troy's, who's the co-host of my show, has been largely the same. This whole year has been, it was a little disappointing at first. I'll start off by saying that, where one of the things that's unique about this whole what we call Bedardapalooza, is it was a 2-year run up. I mean, people were he had his Regina Pats cards were selling for in the thousands of dollars. And then anytime you played in World Juniors and Upper Deck made a Team Canada card, it was selling for thousands of dollars. And so everyone was excited for the Young Guns to come out. And then we saw that we had basically the largest year by year box increases in the history of the hobby. And at some point, I kind of just said, I think I'm out. And so I've actually focused on older cards this year, and I didn't know how I'd feel about that, like how the FOMO, because who doesn't want to participate in this like crazy generational type rookie experience? But I've been buying Pavel Bure cards, who's like crazy hot in the hobby right now. Pavel Datsuk cards, who's a player that I always liked. Some kind of cool wing. I like inserts and Easter eggs and kind of weird stuff, and have had an amazing time kind of collecting older stuff and more solidified players that are in that Hall of Fame or GOAT status. And it hasn't really bothered me. And so one of the things I learned through this experience is there's not one way to participate in this hobby. There's a minute, it's really whatever fits your personality. And I just didn't want to open a box of, as much as I would love to have a Connor Bedard Young Guns, and I still don't have one, a $300 box. And, one of the things that when you go by the odds, there's one of his Young Guns in every 8 1/3 boxes. So on average, you got to spend $2,500 to pull one $300 Connor Bedard Young Guns. And I'm like, for $2,500, I could get like a Wayne Gretzky game used patch auto. I think I'll do that.
That makes sense. It's very sensible, and I can certainly appreciate that. And just thinking about your card collecting, I was curious. One, did you play growing up, and when did you start getting into collecting cards?
Well, I played, and then I switched to basketball because I got tall. But I grew up in Hibbing, Minnesota, which is in the Iron Range. It's the huge hockey history. We have way more, very small town, but Scotty Prunovich plays for the defenseman for the St. Louis Blues. Adam Johnson, unfortunately, the player that passed away this year with the skate incident, was from my hometown. And just so it's a really steep hockey legacy. And so I've always loved and appreciated the game. And then, the very common story is me and my neighbor Troy were, hockey dads growing up. We have kids that play hockey, and the pandemic comes around, and we kind of got back into sports cards and gravitated to hockey because it was a little bit cheaper and a sport we loved.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It definitely seems like the hobby got kind of a kickstart from COVID.
I want to touch on you talked about Adam Johnson. And one of the things that brought me back to the hobby was actually a player that I had a similar unfortunate situation growing up, and that was Dan Snyder in Atlanta. So as a kid, I grew up in Atlanta. I made my way up to Boston, but I had a chance to do a camp that was put on by the Atlanta Thrashers, and we're in the locker room, and all of a sudden, we got some guys coming in and talk to you. In walks Dan Snyder and Danny Healy, the only two guys that walked in that day.
Wow.
And then 2 weeks later, that car accident happened. So Dan Snyder signed my glove, and one of the first cards I sought out it was not like something I was thinking, I'm going to get back into the card collecting hobby. I was saying, I want a Dan Snyder rookie card. I want that Young Gun. I know the Young Gun set's the traditional way. And so now I've kind of got this glove from my childhood and this love for this player. And so whenever I seek out that player now, because the way he spoke to me as a kid made such an impact on me as a young player wanting to do that. It was such a sad, tragic event, but I remember it very vividly and saying, this is somebody who I would like to remember and keep their legacy going. And this is kind of my way of doing it. It's tragic and sad, but it's my little way of just keeping it going. I got the 37 pin that they were giving out at the Thrashers games for him and everything. And it's it's just another way to honor the card is another way to honor his memory for me.
Yeah, and that's I think what trading cards or memorabilia does is it creates that connection to the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for me, it's like it's a callback to memories. Like every jersey you see behind me, or every signed picture I have of a player, I have either a story behind that piece itself, or behind like why I like that player, for instance. And it's that it adds a lot to me, and that's how I felt about the cards growing up. Like opening cards all the time and like seeing all these player names, it just made me feel it was fun. It made me feel connected to the players and to the league. And yeah, I still get that out of current cards, which what makes me want to buy into to these breaks too is like the excitement aspect of it.
But I think too that there's a lot like if you and this is a little maybe aspirational in nature, but I've read in theories about how like sports cards are really can kind of be viewed as modern art pieces, right? Because they're collected and treasured and valued to the point where there's sports cards that are $20 million, like getting to Picasso painting range. And and there are some, we've been fortunate through our show to meet with some of the designers, the legendary designers who truly are artists, and that they've kind of created these little masterpieces that are so valued by the community. And so on one hand, it's you can be glib and say it's cardboard pictures of sweaty men and kind of joke that way. And then on the other hand, there's people will spend 7-8 figures on a little 3.5 by 2-inch piece of cardboard.
It's crazy. I mean, it's all the value that people get out of it. They set the prices, and it's fascinating, and I just love the energy that it captures. And we're certainly excited to make the late game a part of the hockey card community, and hopefully collaborate with you guys however we can moving forward.
So Dan, have you been to the expo ever?
No, and it's a sore spot right now. Yeah, I will not be able to be. I have a family trip that same exact weekend this year, so I've not had a chance to be at the expo. I came to the hobby watching videos of people at the expo, watching the guys like I'm going to shout out some YouTubers that I really got me into it. The Ziri was a guy that I saw him pulling boxes. GP Sports Cards, who I had a chance to speak and talk to and make a deal with.
That's who messaged him, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was somebody that had messaged you about the event, but anyway, continue.
Yeah, no, it was one of the, yeah. So there's just, I was just watching these videos and I was like, oh, I don't, this is really cool. I'd love to get into this and find my way into it. And, how the late game got involved with hockey cards was just us trying to find a new way to kind of showcase the movie and share it. And now it's become a bigger thing because there was a natural overlap, but it was completely accidental. But it was never meant to be like, oh yeah, the late game, this is a part of the original marketing strategy or what have you. And now it's like, oh, we are very ingrained in this community, and the community is at the same time welcomed the movie. And it's been like, oh my gosh, this speaks to me here, or, oh, this character here. And then Jeff and team put together, and Tyner put together those hockey cards that we were able to hand out and say, hey, here's a great way to connect with us and get to know us at the National. And so
those were really fun to give out.
Oh yeah,
at the event.
So to answer your question, sadly, no, I will not be at this expo this year, but
it's every 6 months. So the spring is like 5% worse than the fall. There's a lot of amazing things about going in the spring if you can do it. It's usually during the NHL playoffs. The Maple Leafs are typically getting beat bad, and you watch all the Toronto people lose their minds, which is kind of fun in certain ways. But I tell people it's like flying first class for the first time. Once you fly first class, and then on the next flight you have to go back to coach, you're just like, oh man, this sucks. It's hockey card heaven. If you love hockey,
I'm not going to want to go to other hockey shows or to other card shows. No,
but you want to go. You'll make sure you go back to the expo because it's literally that good.
Well, I had a question for you. I'm going to segue into here naturally now. So I do live in the Northeast, and we have the Northeast Card Expo, which we're going to be at in Stamford coming up on September 14th and 15th. Come say hi. But I was wondering if there are any any shows in the States that you think are kind of sneaky under the radar that actually have a great community for hockey?
No, which needs to change. That's a big opportunity. We'll see. Next week is Fanatics Fest. It's and Michael Rubin has done a lot of big things in a very short time, and just the sport, not too much in hockey, but in the sports card hobby in general. And there's a couple things that Fanatics has, I think, done in a very positive manner. The first is they've been incredibly innovative, and it's not the hobby of old. They're really upping the game. One of the things that he's done is really involve the athletes, because he's got this amazing Rolodex of athletes. When you get Tom Brady at a card shop opening up packs of football cards, that communicates that collecting cards is cool. And for a long time, I think athletes thought probably was a little nerdy and wanting to stay away with it. And so he's really repeatedly driven that fact home. One of the things that we're seeing right away with Fanatics Fest next week is Austin Matthews is doing a meet and greet and signing, and he's rarely, if ever, done that. And here you have one of the biggest American stars in the game that's willing to, that Ruben was able to get to commit to doing that. So, but hockey there will be a very small afterthought as compared to football, basketball, baseball.
Sean and I are actually going to go for a day. We're going to be there for Friday.
Oh, you are? Well, have big time FOMO because I can't make it, but would love to. Javits Center is crazy, and it's a nice place.
Yeah, I'll let you know how it goes.
One of the best hockey bars in the country, the Canuck, is right down the street from it too. Oh yeah. I was in New York for about 5 years of my life, and this is the hockey bar that we've had some nice chats with them already at this stage, from the movie standpoint. But before that, my time going back to New York, every time I go back to visit friends, it ends with a great night and a hockey stick shot at the Canuck. So it's when you're back up there, be sure to check it out. There's some, they're not a partner or anything, but they're, got to shout out a good bar.
And I kind of wanted to get towards wrapping with this question here. We talked about the huge impact that Bedard has had on the industry and all of the cards that are being released. Like, what is the industry like going forward? I know the Celebrini, he's not as big a name as Bedard. He's not expected to be, as much of an impact overall on the sport long term. But like, what does this mean for future stars coming into the league and how they're going to affect the cards?
I think Bedard helps. Certainly, he's gained a lot of exposure. It's more important, I think, how the excuse me, how the NHL's marketed him.
Yeah.
And, Upper Deck has really partnered with the NHL too. And that's a very positive sign. So if you watch the draft, they're the title sponsor of the NHL draft, which makes a whole lot of sense given that rookie cards really drive the hobby. And I think it's just continuing to expose the game that high tide raises all ships. The more, excuse me, the more engaged the audience can be, the more people will naturally find into the hobby.
I do have, if we have the time, I do have a little game I'd like to play with you, if that's okay.
Sure, let's do it.
So I have a game of buy, sell, hold for the upcoming season with some players. Of their cards, which of these players are you going to buy, sell, or hold? And so I'll start with, just start out all the way west with the Anaheim Ducks. Leo Carlson, Mason McTavish, Trevor Zegras. Buy, sell, hold.
Boy, sorry, my biggest pickup in the Nationals COVID. So I'm very on the tail end of COVID. Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys all got sick, but it was a fun week.
I felt a little under the weather, but nothing official.
It was a fun week after that. So I apologize for coughing there for a minute. That is a really great question. That's a tough one. I almost lean hold on all of them, and I can explain why. It's that Leo Carlson didn't play a ton last year. The Anaheim had a little bit of a strategy that I think we'll see with more and more young kids where it's on and off, play one game, sit the next. And he looked good in spots. And then like typical rookies, he got a little quiet for a period of time. McTavish had so much momentum coming into his rookie season. If you remember, because of COVID and the pandemic, that the World Juniors got pushed, and he was the star for Canada. Right, it was like August when they ended up having the tournament, and that created. And then he had an okay rookie year and was a little bit disappointing. And then on Zegras, I'm assuming he's going to get moved. That's the weirdest. I've never seen a team that doesn't more obviously doesn't want a player to play for them. And if he got traded to the right environment and he started to take being a complete hockey player more seriously, he's probably the riskiest one at this point because he does still have a lot of hype. But let's say he made it on to New Jersey and was teamed up with Jack Hughes or something like that, where they get along really well, or just the Canadians or something like that, that I could see him seeing a little value. So I'm actually, for different reasons right now, I'll hold on all three.
Okay. And then I've got a 2020 draft class version for you. Byfield, Lafreniere, Raymond.
I'm a sell on Lucas Raymond because I just don't know. I don't know if he, to have a big hobby market, you have to be like a perennial 50 goal scorer. I think I see Lucas Raymond, maybe I'm wrong, in like the kind of Kevin Fiala category. Get you 70, 75 points a year, a great player to have in your team. You would want him, but is it somebody that is going to have a huge hobby market? Probably not. I'm also probably a sell on Laffy. It's hard for me. He had a good year. He had a really good postseason. I'm happy for everyone that has his cards. We don't root against any player, but his first 2 years were so bad that it's like, I need to see more at this point before I'm a buyer. And then who was the third one?
Quentin Byfield.
Yeah, that one's I'm a little more bullish on Byfield. I might be a buy if you can get good prices right now. And again, now I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth because his first couple of years were pretty terrible too. And
started to get
when
regular
you
ice
look
time,
at,
I feel like this last year.
and you got all these guys too that we can't discount the whole pandemic thing and how that has affected their development. And it's very weird not very non-traditional path into the NHL. And these guys that were drafted in 2020 and 21, it affected almost all of them.
Well, you talk about the first overall pick, and I think the last hype we had close to Bedard might have been Lafreniere at the time, and a lot of people got burned early on with buying for him. But he had such an interesting journey into the World Juniors were that year, and the Rangers wanted him to not play, and they wanted to hold him out. So he's coming into there was no preseason to warm up either, I believe, that year. So he came into the league very cold, very not consistent. That I feel for that class, and I think the values of those players has been all over the place because of it.
Well, there's also a new trend that we saw last year, which I think has worked very well in the NHL, and I think we'll see it going forward. So when you look at like Laffy, he came in, and the strategy that the Rangers had was, we're going to create this kid line. We're going to fill up Heidel, Capocacco, Alexis Lafreniere, and we're going to stick them on the fourth line. They're all teenagers, and they're going to grow, and then they're going to earn their top spot. And that was sort of how everyone approached this. And then we started to see it. I can't remember who started this, but Montreal did it with Slavkovsky when he was struggling. LA did it with Byfield. New York did with Lafreniere. We're like, let's put him on the first line for a few games. Let's put him with good players. And Panarin and Adrian Kempe on the case of the Kings, and Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield with Slavkovsky, and you really started to see these guys blossom.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm personally a little biased toward Byfield. Dan can probably tell you the specifics. I have this nice 1/1 auto that that was the one of my couple cards that I did not want to move at the show.
The 1/1 Allure Gold Byfield.
Nice. Very cool card. Where did you buy that, Jeff, or did you pull it?
I pulled it in a break. Yep. Yeah, and I have a fun Kale McCarr. What is that? Rookie Future Watch auto? Is that what
You
that
do.
is, Dan?
You do.
Yeah.
You have the retro Future Watch Auto to $4.99. That's the joy of a break. Just to kind of again talk about our partner SkolnSteel is that we just had that one of one goal Bedard, which and everything, and you never know for X amount for $10 or $14 you could have. We saw it in real time, life changing money come your way, or yeah, and so that's the joy of, but with that comes the inevitable skunk that is more often than not.
Yeah, it's gambling, honestly.
Opening cards is not a money making proposition. We've done a series for 2 years now on YouTube where every box that comes out we open pack by pack and track the ROI. And newsflash, there isn't one. But it's not a reason not to do it. You just have to understand. It's like going to a casino, right? If you go to a casino and say, "No, I'm going to put $500 on the blackjack table and I have to walk out with $2,000," it could happen, yes, but 9 times out of 10, you're not. Right. And so you have to open cards and boxes or participate in breaks for other reasons. Like you really enjoy the community. You're willing to take the gamble of, yeah, I might lose $100, but I also might hit a $10,000 card too. And you get excitement out of that. And so, if you just have the right mindset and proper expectations, it's awesome. We love, uh, knowing full well that, again, you're not gonna strike it rich every box of cards you open. Still love doing it every week.
Awesome. Well, Josh, we really thank you for joining us on the show, and it's been awesome to learn more about the card industry through you and through your show. Definitely, everybody listening needs to check out, if they haven't already, the Hockey Cards Gongshow Podcast. We'll be sure to link everything in the notes. And yeah, thanks again for your support. We look forward to collaborating together at some point.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on, and congratulations on your movie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.